Are you looking for an open-minded perspective? Different view or a different take? Well, this is Lost in the Groove, Society and Culture podcast, donor culture, and deep dive. See, here, we're all about the experience, all about the journey, and getting into the groove.
The pioneers, it's like, oh, you can tell, like, that is Ansel Adams. That's Gary Winograd. That's, Annie Leibovitz. So
Yeah.
I'm glad, like, that's resonating, because it's one thing I've actually always struggled with is, like, finding my, like, visual signature in, like, photos. In video, I can kind of, like, I feel like I have a little bit more of a voice, but I'm glad thank you that it picks up with you, at least. Like, that makes me feel good.
Well, that's the thing about photography, and the thing that I always gear towards is when I see photography, I want to know the story behind the artist. I want to know what's going on in the artist's mind, and why they took that photo. Like what brought them to that point. So, welcome everyone to Lost in the Groove, and today we have an interview with Sean, who is an incredible photographer, and it's going to take us on a wild motherfucking journey. But like, what is your thoughts on that? Like, that's how, when I look at photos, that's what I'm seeing.
I wish everybody thought as introspectively as you when it came to photography, instead of just like swiping up and down on, like, oh, I like this. Oh, I don't like this. Like, there's some crazy, like emperor with like, like in Gladiator, where they give the thumbs up, thumbs down kind of thing, and we're all like subject to that kind of like validation, that digital validation. So I'm glad like someone like you actually like appreciates that, whether you take photos or not, and I think hopefully to answer thank you. And, and hopefully to answer your question, like, because we have digital cameras now and we are so lucky, we don't really need to think as much. I can fire 60 frames at once in like, in 2 seconds.
Right.
And then pick the one I want that I think is the best one. Right. But there's so many like that aren't on my website that might be, from a concert series or like a portrait series that are like really good, but there's just something else that tells that much better of a story than the one I posted. But there's, if
I totally get that.
If oversaturation wasn't a problem, in visual media, then I would have everything on there and everybody would love them all. And I would post a lot more. But to your point, though, too, like when I shoot, like, maybe like we call it like white labeling, like stuff I don't like post or like I don't put on like my, on my website or something.
Right.
If it's for like a friend, like I'll shoot like kids portraits sometimes for like my friends because they're all married and have kids back east, or like a corporate client where they're just doing a big buyout and they buy all the images. Then I'll touch up like, 100 or 200 and I'll give them those. But I'll pull like 20 to 50 of my selects, like my favorites. And I'm like, these are the ones that I think are the best, but here are the other ones that you can use. And I'm telling you, and I learned this the hard way, is because so many people would be like, oh, you have some good ideas, but I don't like the way my eye looks there. Or I don't like the way like the corner of my mouth looks there. We like one, not image 278. We like image 284, which is like the same image, but like, that much different. Not this much different, like that much.
There was I think his name was Leonard. He was an artist in New York in the 1980s. And his whole thing was he would create these monochromatic pieces depicted people, but a very metallic and an industrial form. It was done with spray paint. And you had people that took all the like photography of the different work he did throughout the city. And recently somebody made a clip. They put it out on YouTube, a reel of him, like a little like documentary. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I was just absolutely in awe of this, because you not only see the picture, like you see what the image was, but then, like I said before, you get to like walk through like, oh, this is what the artist did, this is why he was here, and so on. I love that too, so you do like a variety of different type of photography. You don't just touch base on one thing. You work with corporate clients, you work with friends and family. How does that make you feel as like a photographer? Do you like being all over the place, like doing multiple different types of tasks?
I'll answer your question with another sub caveat is not only
Ooh,
do I, and this is like with a lot of humility, I don't mean this egotistically, I do a lot of different things too, like film, video, I produce, I direct, I edit. And I do a lot of these things because I need to do all those things to create one lump sum of an income. If I was just a photographer, I wouldn't make enough to pay the rent. If I just worked with artists or musicians, I would definitely not make enough to pay the rent. If I just worked in one niche, also like my soul would not also be fulfilled. So I do like to do a lot of different things, whether it be like different categories of photography, like whether it be concerts or like behind the scenes or, documentary journo style or shooting portraits for my friends' kids, that will live on their mantle and walls forever. All those different things not only add up to one lump sum, in one respect, but also they scratch many different itches that I may have creatively as well. The same with video, the same with producing and directing. Like, to be honest, like, I don't want to shoot photos every day because when I do shoot photos every day, I do it for money and that takes the love out of it. And that's like
right,
kind of a problem. So when I do get asked to do photography, I approach it a little bit like more gleefully. The same with like, video, because I don't want to shoot video every day. There's some instances I don't want to shoot video like at a concert. I'd rather shoot photos. I'd rather be more nimble and be able to like kind of roam around. If I'm shooting video, like I kind of have to be stationary. And there's just some days I just don't want to do that. And I'd rather produce. I'd rather like, oh, I don't want to deal with this shot list. I don't want to have to deal with this lighting. I just want to produce this or I just want to
right,
direct this. So it's nice to have a lot of different skill sets and work in a lot of different kind of industries and environments because you meet a lot of different people.
right.
It makes you more well-rounded in your backgrounds and allows you to be like crew facing or client facing or production facing, which kind of allows you to navigate and communicate very well through different worlds and hopefully appease and the creative and make everything work together because you've worked every position. It's like being a general manager in a restaurant, right?
You
Like when
got a
I
lot of
worked,
jobs.
yeah, right. And well, when I worked in like a very, well-known, it's not really around anymore, like chain restaurant, I remember the GMs had to work every single position before they were GM. So like if they were a bartender, they got promoted to manager, then they got promoted to GM. They had to go back and work the host stand. They had to work bus. They had to work bar back. They had to work the bartender, sous chef, line chef, dishwasher, and then manager, and then back to GM. So they can know how all the parts work and be able to communicate and understand and have empathy between all the
That's
different
actually
positions.
it's a really great it's a great work ethic because you're really giving a person a very realistic perspective, to be able to understand what you're doing. We all have this fantasy of being successful artist, but you point out a really great way of doing that. If you want to be a successful artist, you can't just put all of your eggs in one basket. It's just not how the world works. You need to be able to put yourself out there and do different things.
I totally agree. But there are like outliers and unicorns, right? And I feel like those are the people that kind of get the most shine are like this photographer is best known for portraiture or like this musician is best known for this style of music or this DJ, is best known for this one style of music. And those are the people that kind of I feel like are the shiniest and at the top that we all kind of like look and at least in my opinion, like look and aspire to be. But for the rest of us, I feel like we need to do a lot more just to get this much, right? Where I feel like this could be totally like ignorant, but I feel like they do this much to get this much. You
Well,
know,
a lot of them come from a completely different world. If you want to talk about podcasters, like one of the largest is Joe Rogan.
for sure.
And let's be honest. I mean, he did this 13 years ago. I mean, number two, he also was part of already a large audience that he can grasp at. So you're right. I agree with you. I don't think it's ignorant. I think it's 100% correct. You have these pockets of people that have that little bit and they're able to expand a lot from it. You really need to have, I feel like, and I've done this for myself too, you need to learn to be able to have a perspective that works for yourself. a realistic expectation that actually makes sense that you can do. You know, you can't say, yeah, I'm going to be the greatest guitar player ever. Okay,
Right.
how are you going to do that?
Right. Yeah, and like, and what does that goal materialize? Like, does that mean you want like all the platinum albums and chart top 40
All the
and
awards?
yeah, and all the awards and have all these houses or have X amount of wives or boyfriends or whatever you're doing? Like, it like, what does that look like? Like, to me,
Right.
and if you want to get really esoteric and ethereal, then it boils down to happiness. It's like, okay, well, what's your level of happiness? It's like, I get to live. I was doing another podcast a couple months ago, and they're like, would you say you're living the dream? And I was like, well, I never really thought about that, but like, I do live in Los Angeles and I work in media, and it's everything I ever wanted, and I live by the beach, and I get to travel and get paid to do what I do and get paid for my opinions. Like, in
But you
essence,
work
yeah,
but
like,
you worked for it though. That's the difference. You didn't
yeah,
just like walk into this and like, okay, this is my life. You took
right.
the steps to get where you are right now.
And that's actually a really good distinction I meant to bring up, based off of what we were talking about prior about like knowing all the different positions. You know, you can know at least like in photography or video or production or whatever. Like, there's you meet so many people on set that literally just stepped in to a position. Like, they were like, the son or daughter of so and so, or the boyfriend or girlfriend of so
Right.
and then all of a sudden they're the fucking production coordinator, or they're the executive producer by title, and they don't know their ass from their elbow, and they're the one giving you notes and telling you how to do your job. And that's where everybody thinks that entertainment has this low bar of entry, and everybody can do what I do or do what you do with podcasting or with music. Everybody has a fucking opinion about it,
Nobody can
and
do this.
they
Nobody can
think
do
you need
Lost in the Groove except me. Nobody can
100%.
be nobody can be Sean
That's
and
right.
do what you do. Like that. You know what? I want to be able to give that type of optimism because people have like, oh, I can never be successful. You can be the most successful version of yourself. You know, if you compare yourself to a celebrity or somebody that is doing better than you, you're never going to grow as a person. You're always going to try to emulate something that you can never emulate or ever reach. You know, like
It's just like the Greeks, it's like Sisyphus, like pushing the rock up the hill. Like,
right,
you'll never get it. And like, honestly, to be 100% honest, like, I have a 14-year-old niece. She just graduated from 8th grade, and she's on TikTok and Instagram and all this stuff, and I'm like, it causes a lot of anxiety in a lot of young people. Dude, I'm 41 years old, dude. I don't go on social media because it gives me FOMO and it makes me feel like shit, and I compare my life to people that I came up with in the same scene that are lapping me successfully, financially, professionally, creatively, and I'm like, I can't deal with it. Like, I can't deal with it. So what you're saying is 1,000% correct, and like, it's so difficult, like, to compare and despair. Like, it's a zero sum game, and you're the only one playing. It's terrible. It's
it
terrible.
is.
Yeah, especially out here in LA, man. I mean, you have so
Well,
many
the thing
people.
is, here's the thing, and I've talked about this many times on my podcast before. You say you're in your 40s. I'm in my early 20s. I
Mm.
remember what a fucking payphone is. I remember when it
Oh
was
yeah.
not common to have a laptop. Nobody had laptops when I was a kid. We had a Dell beige computer. I never forget this. My brother bought it, I think, in 96 or 97. We had dial up in our house.
Hell yeah.
That, my understanding, and I'm assuming for yourself as well, like us growing up, we didn't have all of this. I didn't have social media. No one had cell phones. Nobody could, you couldn't watch a movie right now if you wanted to, unless you had a VHS or a DVD, you
Yeah.
know?
It was an event. We're like,
Yes, it
okay, we're all going
was.
to meet on the couch at this time, and we're going to watch the movie, or we're going to watch the 8 p.m. Simpsons that comes on
Oh my
Sundays.
God.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
no, I think people are spoiled by immediacy and media, and this is just, it's human nature. It's our culture, not only as Americans. I think really just in kind of human nature, but it's the loudest here in America because this is where we live. But yeah, no, it really you gotta like really let it breathe, and you gotta let it take time. And I try not to get hung up on likes and follows and all that shit. But at the end of the day, I just, like, probably like you, it's like you just keep your head down, and and just try to like, try to remember it's a marathon and not a sprint. I mean, that for me is like really difficult because I tried to cram so much in so early and I spun out and burn out. And now, like, thankfully, I'm a little older. I have a little bit more perspective, and it's like, it's just not like it's what you do with how long you live, and like you don't need to die trying or cutting yourself short because of it. Like it can be okay, But I get out of my head too, like a lot of with that.
It's all about societal pressure and what they call societal norms. I will say this, and I have noticed this. Something about my generation and your generation. We have something in common. No one talks about us. We're kind of like forgotten,
100%.
and in a way that we are the ones that, and I say this because I've met a lot of people like this, especially like you and yourself. It's where you need to get out of your head. The thing is, the reason why we're so miserable and not getting anywhere is because we're constantly drowning ourselves in other people's lives.
Mhm.
How is that productive?
No, it's not. And I love that. I love this conversation because I read an article a year or two ago, I think on like LinkedIn or something, which I kind of troll now because I'm totally in my 40s. But and I don't
feel you,
compare
man.
myself. I know that's so weird, right? I never thought I'd say that. But they do post some like interesting articles from time to time, and one of them was talking specifically about like the lost generation, which is kind of like it's like 30, it's like 78 to 86 or something like that. So I'm 82. So that would put me right in the middle. And I'm sure there's shrapnel, like, in your generation and others that feel part of
Well, for
ours.
me, our generation would be 96 to 2000
Okay.
is our group. I think it's 2000 or 2001.
Yeah. It's probably like 5 years, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, something like that.
So,
Yeah.
so is that Gen Z?
We're not, we're called, so just like you're called early millennial,
Yeah.
we're called late millennial, early Gen Z. That's the term.
Okay. So if this is a musical genre, you'd be post millennial.
Yeah, basically.
Okay. So you're like post punk, like you're with us. You're with us. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting, I've always felt it's so funny you say that because I've always felt like kind of in transition and like in this weird like limbo. Like there's always like I got like some of the really great stuff from like the Gen Xers, right? Like we had like the latchkey, we could like move around. We had that freedom.
We had the Ramones from that
Yeah,
generation.
we had the Ramones.
Stooges.
I got to go to CBGB's once, you know what I mean? Like I was lucky enough just to catch like that window, right? So we had some of the advantages that generation had. And yet we have all the advantages also of, the new generation of just like technology and opportunity to communicate and things like that. But we're also at this weird like nucleus where like people just don't know how to categorize us or like know what to do with, which also makes us really unhirable in a lot of ways because some of us are really set in our ways and some are adapters and then there's some that are like really in between, but we're at a weird like age gap where we're very unhirable because we have expectations, we have needs. A lot of them I don't, but like a lot of people have kids and mortgages and they have expectations that they need to make like 150 grand a year in their position.
Right.
They're like, well, fuck you, we'll hire one guy who does 9 positions and we'll do it at 28 grand a year. And that's like what it is like in my industry. Like they want everybody to have, and this is not like an exaggeration, 9 skill sets with
Yeah.
10 years experience at your age and to do it for 1/5 the cost. And it's this weird area that we're in, which I think is really important to those listening to. It might be a really good time to kind of like start your own business in some kind of way. And I never thought I would be a businessman. I don't consider myself a businessman. I'm just an artist. At the end of the day, my ego is like, you're an artist that gets to do a lot of different things and fly around and do a whole bunch of stuff. Even though I have an LLC, I don't consider myself a businessman. I really don't.
Again, to emphasize on our point is we as artists have adapted. We've gone a long way since the 60s. And now, because of the advancement of technology, and I feel like the advancement, like especially with digital photography, it's changed a lot of things.
Oh
Way
my god, yeah.
cameras have advanced. I mean, fucking a, you can do 4K video on a camera that's this big.
I do it all the time.
It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's wild.
So
No,
we
and
as
these images. Yeah, no, finish your point.
so like we as artists now have more control than ever. And to point this out, the rats have finally come out of their cages.
It's funny, like we do. It's funny. I have a mixed bag of emotions about that. Where like, like the last few years, like the NFT generation was supposed to really kind of give a lot of artistic freedom and ownership to like recording artists or even photographers. That was a big kind of thing because it's a visual medium, right? Or it's an audio medium as well.
Right.
And there's some people that really did capitalize that, and I applaud them very much. But that's a very, very, very small sliver of everybody else because the other 99% will sell their soul for 15 seconds of fame. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
they'll
it's so true.
sign on the dotted line regardless, and then they give all their rights, ownership, and licensing to Big Brother in perpetuity. Perpetuity means forever.
Yeah, look at Aerosmith.
What they do recently?
Well, Aerosmith, they had a horrible contract. I mean, they've been on tour. I think this is their last tour, but it's to the point where their tickets are, dude, you can go online and check this. It's like $900 starting.
Okay, so like half of a Blink 182 ticket.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm glad I saw them for free, and they were like $25.
But that's that's the unfortunate reality of where you want to be successful and you want to be famous, but
at what price?
Exactly.
One of my favorite photographers, unfortunately, he passed away. I think I think it was 2 years ago, and he came up documenting like Run DMC and the Beastie Boys and New York street photographer.
Which photographer?
Ricky Powell.
Oh my God, he passed away, really?
Yeah, he passed away, and there's a great documentary on him. I think you can find it on Showtime.
Okay.
And it's sad. Like the documentary is actually kind of sad. Like he lives in this really small, cluttered 1-bedroom apartment in New York City, and he definitely, I think, suffered from some substance abuse and things like that. And you think that he seemed happy. You know what I mean? Like, and accomplished and revered. But I don't know. It just seemed like with all that aplomb and cred and IP that he wouldn't be in that position that he was in. And I think about that a lot because I mean, he was one of the first photographers I grew up gravitated to because I had all those albums.
Can you
posters?
I gotta go to the bathroom quick. I'm gonna be right back.
Just like how important it is that we not get raped by Big Brother and all those good things. But I have a recent story kind of like in lieu of that. I'm not going to say the name or anything like that because I didn't sign NDA. I mean, fuck them, but whatever.
Understood.
A good friend, she reached out to me recently to do BTS behind the scenes.
Okay.
Really big show going to a new merged major network, and it's a cool opportunity. And the money was shit, and I would have had to fly like on my own dime back to the East Coast to go do it, which is fine because I can build out other work, see my family like while I'm there and do whatever I do. And she sent me the 1-page term sheet on what they wanted and like and all the deliverables and stuff. And it was fucking laughable. I mean, it was a $500 buyout for all images to be used. And they use them for digital marketing across every platform imaginable and in it could be on buses, it could be on trains, it could be on billboards, it could be in, magazines or whatever. And it was a $500 flat fee for all of the work. And like, that's insane. That's insane.
It's crazy.
And they hired somebody else that jumped at the opportunity. And they're like, yeah, I'll do it. Fuck it.
You realize that like they're one of the largest groups in Asia. I mean, even worldwide, and
It's sad, man.
It's horrible.
It's sad. I mean, you got to have a good lawyer.
It just like goes to show you that there's no care or like respect towards the artist at all. It's all about making profits and making money, and that's that, nothing more.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's got to, if it makes dollars, it makes sense,
Right.
and I think there is some kind of harmony that could be achieved a little bit better. But the problem is, I mean, everybody's just so starry eyed, and they're just willing to do anything and just take what they're given. But it's it's such a double edged sword, man. And I mean, I'm constantly, like, personally, like, I'm constantly fighting for my rate, like, and it's hard to even get there because this year it's like people are fear of recession or everybody's getting fired at major companies, and people are fear of recession, so they're holding on to budgets, so they don't want to pay for it, but their expectations haven't changed and the deliverables haven't changed, but the money has. And it creates this confluence of just mismanagement. And they know that people, at least in production or in film photography, whatever, like, dude, they're dying to work. They want to work because this is their passion, and they can take advantage of those people. And especially now, like, I don't really work within the studio system. I don't work on really big sets and stuff like that. I have, but I just don't really do it. And in LA right now, you got the DGA strike, that SAG is going to strike, or DJ is going to strike. The writers have already struck, and then SAG is going to strike right behind them. And so
I've
you got
heard this.
all these unions.
I have a friend of mine. Shout out to Eli Nuret of Underland Creations. Um, they work in the film industry, and they were telling me about this. About
Yeah,
like,
it's happening.
is it really like happening? So let me ask you a question then. Like, how is anything
Yeah.
being made then? I mean, still things are being produced.
Yes, absolutely. So my roommate, actually, he's a grip with Local 80, which is not affiliated with the writers, the DGA or SAG. What they do is they build things and then they tear them down, or they supplement the lighting, like the big, they could be like big screens, or build walls or green screens or whatever. Like they're the real guys that make the movies.
Right.
And what he's been doing is either tearing down stages because no one's shooting right now. So they're tearing down sets and packing them up and taking the trusses down and, all the blocking, all the lighting and all that, getting rid of it. So that's one part. The other part is there is stuff that can be shot because it's already been greenlit, insurance already has been paid, and they can continue shooting because the writers don't necessarily have to be on set because it's already been written, right? So that can go. Otherwise, what you deal with, which I deal with all the time because I'm not union, is non-union. And non-union is a little bit more cavalier because the unions aren't there to kind of help protect their people. So that is a situation where you might have a producer that raises a bunch of money that wants to do a feature or a short or something like that, and he leaves with all the money. But that doesn't happen all the
Whoa.
time. But there's a lot of non-union work, and I work in the non-union space, whether it be commercials or whether it be advertising or whether it be corporate or whatever it may be. It's just it's another aspect that is definitely still in production and happening in other states, and there are opportunities, but like the rates are dog shit. And I look at them every day, and it could be good or it could be prime exploitation. So things are being shot. Things can continue to be shot as long as they're greenlit and already in production. Now with the DJA striking and SAG behind it, that might be a completely different story.
Well, that's what that's what Eli was saying, that even non-union people are being affected by this. So everybody in the industries,
Absolutely.
damn.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all trickle down. I mean, and that's why, like, for me, like, even though, you think with the fear of like the debt ceiling, them not, coming to an agreement, or, even recession or inflation and all that, like that is directly correlated to people like me, because I'm the one that's going to companies who get budgets ratified based off of economics, and they're the ones that are shortchanging the creative. So that's affecting me more personally than it may be affecting my roommate or the DGA or the writers or SAG. But at the end of the day, it just all bodes bad business across the board. Because if, if the economy's great, then people are going to spend money. People are going to go out. Restaurants are going to do well. Servers are going to do well. Gas is, might come down and might go up. It's going to go up now because it's summer.
Right.
So, as long as there's a good kind of like social climate, then the money will flow.
How long?
In my
How long do
estimation.
you think this is going to last?
So I don't know much about much. Let's just put that out there. This is one guy just hypothesizing. And I have two hypotheses
Okay.
for both kind of like things I just talked about with like recession and my woes as a non-union and as far as the union. I was talking to my roommate about this last night, actually. And because of what's happening with the writer's strike and with the solidarity of a lot of, big names, as well as the solidarity of the DGA and the eventual solidarity of SAG, they are trying to push. The DGA apparently put in an early request for a strike or something like that. They have to do some sort of like bureaucratic, like,
And this is
check and balance.
the
Like we have
name
to
of the
put
union.
the DGA, the Directors Guild of
Okay.
America. So they apparently put in a motion to strike early before their term limits or their renegotiation for contracts came up, which would then force those workers, obviously, which need to be there to shoot the stuff that's already in production, to not be on set. And then with SAG right behind it, that would create like kind of like, a perfect storm of creatives that need to get things done because actors need to be on set, directors need to direct them, writers need to write for it. That could force executives and big studios to the table quicker than if it was, more compartmentalized. So if they act together, they might be able to reach a resolution better. And if I have to forecast based off of my limited knowledge, I would say probably end of summer, August, sometime in August.
Wow. It's crazy.
So it's going to be a long, hot summer.
Bro, though, it's crazy to like think about, and I said this, we think the world has gone back to normal. No, it hasn't.
No, in a lot of ways, no, it hasn't. I mean, we're still dealing with fallout, that was there before the Trump administration and is there because of the Trump administration and also because of the Biden administration. Like there's just fallout across the board and no one has taken accountability for it. And it's all happening now. Like even in the way the debt ceiling thing that I read this morning has been like, there's a compromise in air quotes that's been reached that like, even if it passes the House, in 2 years, it's going to be that president's problem again. In 2 years, it's basically just a Band-Aid. It's not like, oh, we figured it out for like the next like few years. It's like, no, it's a 2-year limit, and now the next president, whoever it is, whether it's Biden or Trump or somebody else, they're going to have to deal with it again, and we're going to have to really, come to terms, and we're going to face that challenge again, which is crazy. And just to the last point, though, the second hypothesis, though, just even like in my non-union work, I don't like I'm not an econ major or whatever. I'm just kind of guessing. I'm looking at stones and sticks and guessing.
We're just
and
having
whatever.
fun. We're just having fun over here. I'm just fascinated by this.
Yeah. What I think and mildly now hope, because I kind of caught this in early January. I watched clients fall and really amazing opportunities fall, and they all fell for budgetary reasons. And if you remember at the end of last year, that's when the tech companies really started to fire a lot of people, a lot of big layoffs. And now you have a lot more layoffs that have obviously perpetuated throughout the year, and tons of major companies from Amazon to Lyft and Uber and, all across the board. Plus the banks, defaulting, whether it be Signature or Silicon Valley and all this. So people are scared. People are scared. People are scared for their jobs. People are scared for the money in the recession and the inflation that people have been talking about for 2 years, and they're sitting on it. And that's why, in my opinion, it was a super lean quarter one. Quarter two has been okay. But I think by quarter three, once again, end of summer, people are going to realize that they're sitting on a mountain of cash that they need to get rid of, because if they don't get rid of it, then they can't get that budget again for next year. So if everything works in the way Sean hopes it will, everybody in the entertainment business will be back to work and have a great summer. chilling, traveling, hopefully doing whatever they do, or probably driving Uber or Lyft, and they can go back to work, sometime between August 1st and Labor Day. And then with me, they'll realize that they need to get rid of this cash so they can free up their budgets for 2024. And they'll be sitting on a ton of shit that they didn't do because they were out of fear and that they need to make. And it'll be a rush of work from then until the end of the year. Those are my hopes as of now.
Very optimistic. I like that. It's a good approach.
I have to be. Otherwise, man, I'm going to... Yeah, you don't want to see me pessimistic.
It's kind of it's strange because where do we go from this? We live in a world right now that's absolutely chaotic in so many ways and shapes and forms, and it affects each person personally because you have to deal with it every single day. And it's so hard to live in this world as an artist, and to feel accepted and feel wanted. Because a lot of us, it's just myself, you have to work the corporate jobs. You have to do the things you don't want to survive. And you sometimes have to face like what's going on right now and just be like, well, it's got to end some way or another. Let's see how it goes.
Well, I also think that a lot of that, yes, there are those things that you say, and I did suffer from them a lot greater in my youth, than I did now. But I think that if you can reframe your thinking, and this is not like to you, this is just in general, if you can reframe your thinking into finding joy in what you're doing, then you could use that corporate job to fund the dream. When I was in my 20s and my early 30s, I would hate doing other work that wasn't related to music or artists or culture or anything like that. I was like, this is a deviation from the dream. I've sold out. I'm not doing this, but I need to pay rent. Now that I have a little bit more perspective in life, when I accept like a big corporate job, doing an internal corporate video that no one's going to see except for the 20,000 people at their Las Vegas convention, a couple weeks ago, I find joy in that because it's like, oh, I get to use the skills that I've attained from 20 years as a professional, and I can bring it to this project and make it awesome because that's what I'm good at. And that one wasn't a fat paycheck, but let's just say I'll take that fat paycheck and then I can take it and work with an artist like you for like, $100 or $200 and not have your money fund my dream. The corporate money funded my dream that I could work with you on your level that you are prepared and can afford, but I can give you a great product that you hope and expect as a serious artist. The same way I can give it to that big corporate entity. I can give you a 4K deliverable music video at scale, but I'd charge them 25 grand or something crazy, but for you, it's like, okay, I'll do it for like $500 because you're an artist and I respect that. But if I relied solely on working with like one artist and I'm making $200, for something that's worth like 2,000, then that's not cool. It was funny, real quick. I had a conversation with my friend this morning, and I put him together with a buddy of mine that I've worked with before. He's an MC. I've worked with him before, and I work with him for no money. Like, he doesn't have a lot of money. He works in recovery as a tech. He's hourly. He's in between jobs right now, but he's a musician, and he's really known in a lot of like dance music circles and hip hop circles and stuff. And I believe in him, and I love him very much, and I want to help him and use what I can do to help him. So he was having trouble with something where a client of ours had reached out to them if he could write a rap for their real estate company based in San Diego. And he was torn up about it. He's like, yo, I can't do it. Like, what if they find out it's me? I'll get discredited in this community and I'll get discredited here. And I was like, bro, just take the paycheck. Take the paycheck and have fun with it, man. Like,
go out,
just white label.
Go on and get margaritas, honey. Go cha-cha-cha.
but you don't, like, you don't know what that opportunity could breed, dude. Like, someone could hear it and be like, yo, and then that realtor wants you to write a rap for you. And then you could start this whole like niche business and just collect checks. Like, you have fun with it, but you create your own, create a new moniker over it. It doesn't have to be your moniker that people know you as. Create a new moniker and then just be a ghostwriter and wear a mask or fucking create an avatar in AI. Like, do whatever, it doesn't have to be you.
See, you remember we were talking about, celebrities and the little, and it becomes big. Here's the thing: a lot of people don't realize. You know why some of these big people, such as like the Beatles, like Paul McCartney and Ringo and Elton John, you know why these people are so successful? Is because they didn't just capitalize on their music.
Right.
They capitalized on what they could, for example, buy music rights, buy other companies, real estate investments.
Mm-hmm.
People don't think about that. People think like, oh my God, you do one thing, you become big, and you go from. I don't really think the world works that way. I don't know. It's just like, I don't know where that perspective comes from, but I feel it's very warped.
Yeah, I mean they're unicorns always, and I think the unicorns are the ones that get put in front of us as like this shiny illusion, and that's what we all gravitate towards, and that's because that's what we're led to believe, right? It's like I was listening to another podcast this week where like they're like, well, how was like your dating life as a kid? It's like, well, it was terrible because I watched a lot of movies, and in the movies that I watched, all the guys were like, I love you, I love you, I love you. And you don't say that to a girl. Like, you'll fucking scare them. Like, you have to play this game. And it's the same way. It's like, if this is what you're being told, that this is how you make it and this is what success is, you're going to go to something that's completely unattainable. You don't know what's below the surface. You don't know that, like, Chameleonaire, who was like a big rapper in like the mid 2000s, quit rap to go invest in a bunch of angel companies that do a bunch of tech stuff up in the valley. Like, that dude's killing it. Rap was just the tool. It was just the tool to get him in the room.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that for me, I feel the same way. Like, I'm going in a lot of different directions, but like,
That's good.
I love what I do and I want to be doing some sort of it for the rest of my life. It was like, I would love to be either like a professional golfer, a chef, or this, because you could perpetually do that for the rest of your life in some capacity, right? I can't sit around. There's no retirement. Like, I'm just going to try to do this for the rest of my life. But later on, things have kind of changed where it's like, I don't want to be a 50-year-old dude in the pit trying to shoot concerts next to 22-year-old kids that are doing it for exposure. And I need to make money and make rent at it. I want to be able to be in a position that I have other things in my life that also satisfy me, whether it be like, oh, I run a farm that, does organic XYZ, or I own this bar and restaurant, or I have real estate holdings in Tennessee, or whatever it may be. There's other things that, because I've gotten older, like also became goals that I can maybe attribute to success in finance with. And I think that's the most important thing too, is just to don't, if I get that one hit song or I get that one hit movie, it's like, that's a zero sum game. It's a zero
It
sum game.
is.
You got to find things that are punk rock, to you, right? Like, I used to think that thinking was punk rock. And then I was like, no, if you do what you do to help other people, and then you create a foundation, then you can create jobs that could create and help other people. And then those people can help other people. And then if you're doing something that's like really good, like shining light to an organization or to a movement or to a better practice or a better service, then you're really doing it. And if you can make money doing that, then and help other people provide, like, that's fucking punk rock.
It's all about finding. It's all about finding your balance. It's all about finding your chi. Because if you want, I find this for myself, to find a good foundation that's solid, you need to understand what it's made out of.
Absolutely. No, for sure. I mean, even when I moved out here, like, I tore everything down, like, mentally. Like, I moved out here 6 years ago and I tore it all down mentally because it's like, I need to be the best version of myself to like survive with the sharks out here. And I just, was able to just kind of like look deep within and find a bunch of gratitude and acceptance and, look at the things that weren't serving me well in my life. And hopefully, I'm not perfect. I'm not there. That's nirvana. Like, I'm just progress, not perfection, right? And you got to have a solid foundation, and I think I have a very good foundation, like of work, but like also of like ethics and friends and family and routines, like healthy routines in my life that like get back to what we were saying at the beginning. It can be a marathon, and it doesn't have to all be painful, so it starts with it really starts with within, as cliche as it is, but you got to start with a solid internal foundation and hope and do the work that reverberates outward, and that can reverberate to other people, other relationships. It can revert to the artistry that you present to the world, and hopefully that will touch with and resonate within somebody and people,
It
and then you're on your way.
it kind of one of my all-time favorite punk bands is the Ramones. And
Mm-hmm.
reason being is they weren't famous or successful when they were around. They weren't as big as they wanted to be. And they inspired, oh my god, they inspired so many bands we love in the 90s. So many. And
Mm-hmm.
they were an inspiration. And like even now, I just feel that like you said, you got to be able to first understand what's inside and then be able to go from it and grow as a person. Not always you're going to get what you want. Sometimes it comes later, sometimes it comes now, sometimes it never comes. I think
Yeah,
the unpredictability of being a human being and existing in this world, especially as an artist, it's all about the fun.
exactly. Enjoy the process, as my mentor would say, but I would much rather try and fail than to never try at all. Do you know what I mean? Like, at least you don't have to regret. You might resent a little bit that you didn't get there, but like, at least you won't regret. And that was kind of like the big thing. Like, I put off moving to Los Angeles for so many years. I was like, it's oversaturated. It's too expensive. They don't have a water supply. Like, it's going to fall in the ocean. Like, I don't want to fucking move out there. Well, like, what do I have to give? And then finally, like, I made the leap, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. I don't know if I'll live here forever, but I'll never regret like the experiences that I've got to have out here, the production value of my work increasing just because of the environment and the proximity to opportunity out here. It totally made it worth it, you know, at least in my own perspective. And I'm glad I took that leap. And there's a lot of successes in there. Have I done all the things that I want to do with it? No, I haven't. But I also have zero regrets. Zero
I don't think
regrets
we I
about
don't
any of
think
it.
we I don't think we always accomplish everything that we put our mind to. Sometimes things change, sometimes we go into a different direction. I think that's just again, it's just part of the ride that we take that's called life. You know,
I agree with you, and I'll give you an example based off that too. So I was on a call on Friday about this project that I think I'm going to be doing in
mhm.
Mississippi, and it's called we call it a sizzle reel, and basically it's like kind of like a trailer. It could be like a 2 to 4 minute or like a 4 to 6 minute kind of like sermonization of like what you want a show to look like. And it's to get funding to hopefully get money for a pilot, which is the first episode. And then hopefully you get money then for a season, 6 episodes, 8 episodes, 10, 12, 13, whatever it may be. And what I told the guy, since he had gotten burned before by a previous director, I was like, look, we can put all we want on paper. And all we want on paper is the 100%. And we always strive to hit every shot, every line, every idea that you have as 100%. But very rarely do we ever hit 100%. If we hit 80, then we've hit 100% because that bottom now becomes the new high bar because there are so many factors that are outside of our control, whether it be in production or life or anything in general. If you just get to a certain level, that is going to be your success. Like, I don't need to be Steven Spielberg. I don't want to be
Oh
Steven
god,
Spielberg.
no.
He's one of the goats. He does incredible films, has an incredible legacy, but he can't walk down the street. But I have to work harder than Steven Spielberg just to get 10% maybe of what he has. And that 10% to me is 100% of my effort. Do you know what I mean? It's just like you gotta just find that level of it, which comes back to, what is happiness, or like what is your definition of success. You got to try. You set a high goal, and if you can get to, you know, over 50%, I think that's pretty good. 60 is kind of failing, or a D, or I don't know. Like, get a little bit above that. Strive for around 70 or 80, something attainable, something that's not like what a unicorn can achieve, that get plastered in media,
I
right?
love unicorns, especially when they shit rainbows.
Yeah, yeah,
Of
of course.
course. And then rainbow
Because they only
only
shit
shit
rainbows.
rainbows, and then when you have bunnies, they shit Skittles.
Do you know what a flock of unicorns are called?
No,
A blessing.
no, get out of here! Oh
Look
my
it up.
god, seriously, Jesus,
It's a blessing of
jeez.
unicorns.
Well,
I don't make this shit
I
up.
will tell you, somebody was definitely tripping acid when they were writing about unicorns. I promise you that. Clearly.
Yeah, and so was Merriam-Webster. When they wrote the
My
dictionary on
god. It's so weird because my biggest inspiration for culture, like especially when I'm, my podcast and things that I'm doing, stem a lot from like the 70s and 80s. A lot of those artists, creators that just design an aesthetic, I really gear towards that very immensely. Um, for yourself, where do you find your inspiration? Where do you go to?
That's cool. I watch a lot of films. Watch a lot of
Okay.
films. Thank God my roommate he's a cinephile. So like tonight we're gonna watch The Last Temptation of Christ, which is, I had actually never seen it, but it's a Scorsese, and
Really?
we're like yeah, with Willem Dafoe and Harvey Keitel, and I'm ashamed I've never seen it, but we watched Raging Bull at there's a great little theater around the corner called the New Art, and they show amazing, like, movies from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And we're like, boom, let's go there. So I try to watch a lot of films. I watch a lot of TV. I feel like just watching shows and TV that pertain to my interests, I think, are really important, to maybe just look at like editing techniques or camera trends, or who's hot, or like what's hot, what kind of content's hot, what are people buying, um, I love cooking. I love food. I love food. I love restaurant culture. I did 20 years in the service industry and catering and things like that. So I love going there and watching the production design of what they do, and the orchestration of front of house versus back of the house. I love
I
museums. I
I
love the
remember
beach. I run
I
every
remember
day.
as a kid, Martha Stewart when she was on television.
Oh
Oh my
yeah.
god! And when I was like a kid, like just watching this woman like bake a fucking chicken pot pie, and I'm just like, whoa,
So soothing.
so soothing. Oh my god.
So soothing, dude. All I watch are like, when I go back east and I stay with my mom's house, like all we watch is like, Travel Channel like stuff, or like Andrew Zimmern like Around the World, or Guy Fieri fucking Diners, Drive-ins and Dives, or Chopped, or just anything. And I love like those. I don't really like competition shows, but I do like watching them under pressure, because as an artist, I love being able to see, especially like Iron Chef. I used to watch Iron Chef when it first came out when I was in college, and I love the idea of like, this is all you have to work with. Now fucking wow me. Like, imagine if you had one string, right? What kind of song could you write with one string in the style of a marimba? It forces the creativity. And for me, like, that came for me because my affectionate, like, kind of phrase I say is making chicken salad out of chicken shit. And that's kind of what I have to do, because I'm always on a limited budget and limited resources, but people have the highest expectations, like any of these cooking shows. So you have to really be creative on your execution and your concept and the content or whatever it is, and deliver that based off of having no money or no resources to do it. And I just like watching those people perform at such a high level. And most of the time they do very well. Sometimes, they shit the bed, but, and that's okay. But
Speaking
a lot of times, like, they do amazing
speaking
stuff.
of films, I just watched Bert Kreischer. Oh, he's such a great fucking comic. He plays the Machine. Just came out.
Oh, I know.
Oh, It is so it
Did you
was
like
so
it?
fucking good. Like, I've been dying for a real comedy movie for years.
Yeah.
Finally. Fucking finally.
So I actually read a review on it the other day, and I haven't seen it. I do like Bert Kreischer. I've seen him twice. Not that funny in person. That's my own thing though. I did love his latest special on Netflix. I thought that was pretty fucking funny. Came out like 2 months ago, 3 months
Mhm.
ago. I forget the name of it. Where he goes to like the PTA auction and shit. I don't know if you
I
ever
saw
saw that one.
clips. I
It's
saw
really good.
clips of it. I didn't see it in full.
Okay, check it out. It's actually pretty funny. But the review was it was like it was a 2-star review by the
Oh my
Guardian,
god.
and it's like this should have never gone to theaters. It should have gone to streaming. And I do agree that it should have probably just gone straight to streaming, in my opinion.
I feel you, but like, there was an experience of be there in a theater. Everybody was laughing. It was just like, it was
That's good.
great. And it, like, we were just all pissing our pants off. Half of the theater were all stoned. It was hilarious. I went in there
Right.
kind of like thinking, okay, these people are cool. Like, the second the movie started, like, everybody.
Nice.
So
That's what's up.
I personally find comedy movies, I like to watch it with a group. So I'll watch it with friends,
I agree.
or like watch it in a movie theater. But like I said, I mean, I haven't seen a good comedy movie in probably 5 or 6 years, to be honest with you, that has come out.
Yeah,
It's been about that long.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. There is a solidarity, a communal aspect about watching a good, like, almost, I would say, like a horror movie or or a comedy
Yeah.
movie together. I think that's really important. Going to see, I love live comedy, so going with a friend or a couple, like, there's something that just, when you laugh at the same stuff, you feel like a community, right? Like, you're like, we're all in this together. But yeah, I'm huge into that, dude. I'm huge into that.
It's good to be able to love experiences. Again, it's good to appreciate like the fun things in the world. I think it's kind of fucking amazing that you watch all these movies. You got a movie theater like right next door.
There's several,
That's so
yeah.
cool.
LA. No, and that's a cool thing about LA. There's so many incredible movie theaters, and if I have time, because I work for myself, it's like it's 2 o'clock. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna take my bike and I'm gonna go watch this movie for 90 minutes, and it's $12, and I'll just ride my bike there, and then I'll come home, and who knows, maybe the world has changed, and I'll do some more work till 9 o'clock, and then that'll be another successful day. But I think it's a good constructive way of instead of like, I don't know, like going to the bar like I used to, and like just sitting there. I'm like, oh, why am I not any better? And it's like, no, just it's a good meditation too. You just sit in the theater, it's dark, it's nice, maybe get some candy. I don't know, just
Yeah,
enjoy
exactly.
yourself, have an
Spend
experience.
$25 for a bag of Sour Patch when you can just go to 7-Eleven for
Yeah.
$2.
Oh, I do that though. No, I come in like, I don't wear cargo pants anymore, but like, no, I stuff to the
Yeah,
gills.
I have a backpack.
About 3 bags. Oh yeah, dude. I shop before I go.
It's great.
Sour gummy is my thing.
Oh my
Steve.
god!
Oh my god.
Please, Mike and Ike sours. Fuck yeah!
Yeah, they're fire.
Sour Patch Kids. Please, Atomic Heads. Oh my god! Every day, any day.
I was actually producing this event in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania
Ooh,
last week.
wow! I've been there. It's really fun.
This company. Okay, so it's funny. So, did you ever go to the Steel Stacks?
No, we were there for 4 hours. We stopped for fuel and then we drove around. But I did see it.
Okay.
What exactly is that?
Okay, so Bethlehem Steel was like a legendary steel. Like it built America. Bethlehem Steel. It's like the best steel in the world, or in the United States, or whatever. And a lot of those, like it's Rust Belt, right? So like a lot of those, American factory jobs have closed or been outsourced or whatever. So, that would be like, anywhere from like Detroit to Ohio to Pennsylvania to Jersey, that's like affectionately known as the Rust Belt, because a lot of these big structures and factories that built America are now, they're done. Like the business is gone. The workers are gone.
It's a cool drive.
The factories are closed.
It's a cool drive. Anybody that's out in that area, like North Jersey, going through PA, I'm telling you, like you drive through there and you're just in a different decade. Seriously, like you feel like you're 40
Completely different.
years in the past.
Well, and then if you drive through like the parts of Pennsylvania that are Quaker and
Yeah.
Amish, then yeah, you're in a
You're
whole
all
other
different.
thing. But anyway,
Yeah.
but back to the steel stacks, so they've reappropriated a lot of these buildings, which is super sick. And like the one that I was in was across from this mega facility, and the whole area was like, oh, there's like a rink, like an ice skating rink and like a roller rink that they've made into like a whole, like area. And there's a distillery and there's a bar, there's a restaurant. Here's this big open area. And where I was a huge like performance arts center called Steel Stacks. And this all comes back to Mike and Ike's because the event that I was producing was for this big company that was local, and they had a bunch of stuff like, the couple buffets set out for all the patrons or whatever. And on the dessert table, they had a bunch of stuff that was made locally in Bethlehem. And Mike and Ike's, I believe, are made in Bethlehem because they had like 9 different flavors. So they had like all cherry, they had the sour
Tropical
ones, they had
blast.
tropical ones, they had the tropical blast, they had cinnamon ones, berry.
Okay.
There was about all orange, and they were all like in like the perfect like pocket size. So I just scooped up a whole bunch, dude.
Where have these flavors been my whole life? Like, bruh, I know of I think it's berry blast or fruit blast. I don't remember. There was like a lime one, there was a sour one. But I don't remember a cinnamon.
Yeah, sour
one's really good.
And the all cherry ones are fire too. So those are the ones I scooped up. The cherry and the oranges, I think, were all that was left. And I put those in my bag. And there were a couple others. Oh, Peeps are made there, so they had a bunch of different Peeps.
Oh my god!
Which I don't eat, but like, all right, that's
they're gross.
Cute. I'm down with that.
They're so gross. Like, I don't even know why it's even a food. You could just use it as like filler for your wall.
I was at this art thing used to happen in DC every year called Artomatic, and it was this incredible art show. It was like they'd find a building that was like being built, downtown, and like they would take over like 3 or 5 floors of it for like a month, like while it was under construction, and they'd have like this month-long art show by people all over the DC area or like all over the world really would submit stuff. And this one artist submitted a bunch of dioramas that were Peeps, and they would recreate, I don't know if they were movie scenes, but like they were like important. I think they were actually important things in history, but they were done with Peeps. It was brilliant. It was so brilliant.
Oh my god, that just sounds adorable.
Yeah,
and delicious,
and it was done delicious, so well. Yeah, it was
and
done
incredible.
So well.
It's like get all the elements in one.
Yeah. No, and so I go to a lot of museums. I try to go to a lot of museums, art shows, and stuff too. Anything to kind of expand my horizons.
I kind of envy you in that way because I haven't gone to museum or anything in, I don't know, even years. And it is a great experience because I usually will just sit there. Of course, a joint or two before, and I just, as you should. And you go in there, and I love. Okay, so I love surrealism. I love abstract art. I like modernism, simplism, realism, and contemporary. I love contemporary.
So you should do yourself a favor. And I did this about 3 years ago with my ex. We went to St. Petersburg, Florida, and went to the Dali Museum. You should totally go to the Dali Museum.
Okay. Actually, I have a friend out on the West, so if I ever go out there...
You should totally go.
Yeah, and it's like, I think she's in Venice, so that's not that few-hour drive. It's fine. It's cool. It's a good drive.
It's worth it. Yeah, just go for the day, or it's spend the night, then come back the next day. But no, the Dali Museum is sick. We went to the Dali exhibit. Obviously, it's like it's a permanent exhibit, and then that was right as the Van Gogh experience was coming out, which is like the 3D mapping thing. I don't know if you've seen it. They're all over the world now, the Van Gogh experience, and this was like the only place that like had it in the United States at the time. So we went down to St. Petersburg for like New Year's. And then went to the Dali Museum a couple days later and saw the Dali exhibit, and then did the Van Gogh experience. It was totally worth it. Sick building too, super sick building. That's where I got the Dali clock.
Oh my god, you have a Dali clock? Oh, that's so fucking dope.
Yeah, that's melting. Yeah.
Oh my god,
that's where I got it.
It
was like $12.
God, I love the gift shops and museums because, trust me, they have one-of-a-kind
Yeah.
items you can never find anywhere else except on Alibaba.
100.
Exactly. You can go to Alibaba and find it. Well, I have to say, this has absolutely been incredible. And it's always a pleasure when you talk with photographers and artists because
Hell yeah.
you're just, whoa, and you're like, oh my God. And you're like, shit, okay, I'm fucked. But anyway, Sean, where can these listeners find you on the socials?
Thank you, David. Yeah, thank you. First and foremost, thanks for having me, man. I didn't, with such a freeform, concept, I was like, oh man, I know I can talk forever. So it's like, I'm glad, we got lost in the groove and we made it happen. And this is super fun. And, thanks for just some great questions and great conversation, man. It was super awesome. Yeah, and you can find me. People know me as Seannie Cameras, SEANNIE. And you can find me at www.SeannieCameras, SeannieCameras.com. Same with the Instagram, Seannie Cameras. And those are probably the best social tools. And I respond to every email and comment.
You hear that? You get a great experience and you get somebody that understands the art. So if you like what you see, like and subscribe. And if you want to find us, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube at Lost in the Groove Pod. So with that, we'll catch you on the next one. Stay groovy, my friends. Bye, everybody.